Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Riff On podcast. It's episode number 11, and it's been much too long. My name's Eric D., joined by my good friend
Andrew James.
We are joined by a special guest. No, it's not our good friend Mel, the real voice Mel.
Nor is it
Polly V.
Polly V.
It's not Polly V. We have a very special guest. We have a musical special guest.
We brought in someone from the
Franklin County sphere?
the old Milltown.
Milltown.
Don't you dare say that aloud.
He just said it out loud. We are joined by local singer-songwriter, Vermonters that are tuning in. If you're not a Vermonter, hopefully you'll hear the name soon enough. Troy Milette.
Cool. Yeah, thank you guys so much for letting me come riff on.
Hey,
Yeah, man.
not many people get to sneak into the Riff On podcast studios. This is a little bit like the Batcave. Who drove? Did you drive?
I drove. Yeah, so I even know where the location is now.
The cat is out of the bag. You're supposed to be blindfolded, Andy.
Well, I was blind drunk when we got here, so
I drove blindfolded from Jericho, actually. But once we got on the circuit, it was a little...
It's only going down from here. So, and a disclaimer, this is just crazy. And this is the circle of life. This is a representative of how old I am. I graduated high school with your father, Troy.
Yeah, and I thought he was super old, but, And you guys are both Cowboys fans. It's like a whole, I don't know what was in the water back in Milton, but it was...
How about them Cowboys?
We're not going to go into that. It's going to be a totally separate podcast. So I went to high school with Mom and Dad, and I will say this, your father was the first person I ever really got drunk with, and that was at La Ronde for our senior skip day in Montreal, and unfortunately he got caught and was not allowed to walk at graduation, and I did not get caught, and I was the rookie amateur, never drinking before, drunk guy before.
So basically it's your fault that Troy's dad didn't get to walk at graduation.
My dad was actually the first guy I got drunk with, too, but he didn't know it. I just kind of stumbled home by him and put myself in my room.
You gonna drink those Genesee Lights, Dad?
So I joke all the time as I watch some of my friends' kids grow older, your girls, Andy, heck, my kids, my oldest is 16 now outside of San Francisco, and I just see some of the pictures, especially Christmas time here, holiday season, we're getting the Christmas cards, you see the wonderful pictures come in, and you think, my God, look how old these kids have gotten already, and now I get to hang with somebody, and I just did it at Fish. I was hanging out at Fish in October in Albany, and I was with my buddy's son, who's now 21, and I remember him from when he was 5. Basically, and I hadn't seen them in a long time either, but
You're definitely old, man.
it's just, and we look back, we're a week from Christmas, we're 2 weeks from New Year's.
Yeah.
Where did 2018 go? And then you look back and go, where did the last, heck, I just celebrated 25-year high school graduation was this past summer, and so 25, and you are, how old, Troy?
I'm 24.
24.
You don't have to answer that
Yeah.
question.
Oh, sorry.
How old are you now, Andy? You want to go around the circle, or what are we...
How old does he act?
I'm good.
You're good. He never acts his age, no matter how old he says he is.
We play a ton of shows together, and I always like to throw in there that Andy went to high school with my parents. So maybe when I post about this podcast, I'll be like, hey, want to hear me talk to 2 people who went to high school with my parents?
Old people, nonetheless.
I went to high school with your dad.
Yeah, Mom's really old.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that, Darcy. I didn't say it.
So we want to get, and I think, Andy, you and I are really fortunate. This is actually Troy. We're breaking him in here. He's a little bit of a podcast virgin, so we're going to go easy on him. It's his first
newbie.
It's his first podcast.
I don't know.
You always remember your first time.
I usually go hard.
The cool thing is you have the experience being behind the microphone, being on stage. I mean, heck, I remember catching you at 14 Star in St. Albans, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, years ago for one of the Josh Pilata shows. And you've been playing, how long have you been playing out and about? It's been a while now.
Geez, 2010, I think I started kind of doing the gig thing, and I was playing in bars, lying about my age, to play with Keegan Nolan, country singer from, Fairfield, which is close to Fairfax, but different. I want to point that out, very different. And I'd get calls to go open up for her. She'd be like, hey, when they ask, you're 18, and here I was 15 or whatever. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do that. Of course, I'm tall and I'm a bulky guy, so if I could grow a beard, man, I would have been headlining.
8 years, though. in club days, in club years, I just heard Jim Gaffigan talking about dog years, but in club years, what's 8 years? That's like 42 years, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you're on your second music life.
Right, yeah. I'm at the stage where I could say, well, when I started playing here, and give how the places were better, even though they probably weren't the first time I was there.
So let's see. The only thing that's ultimately, has the world changed that much in 8 years? While the answer is yes, the only thing that's probably changed is you can now legally drink while you're on stage. But have you seen a big musical shift or culture shift or anything since you started gigging?
I definitely, like, now that we've expanded a little bit beyond Burlington, I think I appreciate Burlington's music scene that much more now. I think it's definitely, like, all-inclusive in a weird way. And I mean, beer culture's the same way, we were talking a little bit before this comes on. It's like, oh, this brewmaster's going and collaborating with this. And I think there's Vermont's theme for, like, creative outlets is just collaboration, which is cool to now not be looking in on that, but being like, oh, yeah, I drank that Switchback. And not like, oh, no, what's alcohol?
And that's true. I mean, Burlington really has always had a little bit of that persona, if you will. And being biased, I guess, being really a lifelong Vermonter minus a stint in Pennsylvania for 4 years. And when you're part of it, like you have been, Andy, sometimes you miss out. Like if you've never been out and about, you kind of miss on what's right under our noses.
Yeah, for sure.
And how long you've been playing around, Andy, for, talk about club years. I mean, that's like, what, you're on 74 years now, club years?
He's older than the clubs.
Some of them, yeah. Citizen Bear was one of the first bands to start playing at Monkey House.
Okay, and they just celebrated
2007.
Didn't they just celebrate a big anniversary? Were they 10 years? Yeah. And that was just real recently too, within the last couple of months.
Yep.
Monkey House in Winooski.
We started playing out there, John Grattan and I.
That's right. That's where you and I connected / reconnected there, so to speak.
You didn't remember who I was. I wasn't hurt. I don't bring it up every once in a while.
You were that geek in high school. You were younger than me.
I just showed Troy your yearbook photo from my freshman year. I was that geek in high school.
You look like Minkus from Boy Meets World.
Oh my God, I'm going to punch you in the throat. So I started playing out in the Burlington scene and probably after ministry school. So 2000.
That was your Al Jorgensen days, right? After ministry school.
Uh-huh.
I saw them on Lollapalooza 92, if that doesn't date me.
92.
I was -2.
Shh. Stop it. You're only going to remind me as this night goes on how old I am. So, ministry school. Yes, that was your industrial post-rock Al Jorgensen days.
Probably, yeah. We did that from 97 until, I don't know, when did we stop being missionaries in 2006?
And you started in other positions, right?
We get all the positions now.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Front of the house.
We don't talk about the cowgirl decade. That's something you wish you could reverse.
I thought we weren't talking about football.
I know. I was waiting for that to turn into Cowboys. Man, you know what? You put 3 hotheads in here talking beer and stuff. It starts getting a little warm in here.
Getting hot in this room.
It's only 67 degrees in here. So 8 years. So where did you start playing at first? Where were the gigs around?
I mean, I think, as you pointed out, someone at that age, like the fairs, those weird field days, Vermont-y type festivals are like kind of the only place to play unless you want to play in your high school gyms doing like the talent show thing, which we did. I played in the best worst high school band ever. And I really hope my mom's not listening. I'm just going to. So I started a band in high school and we called it Satan's Pussy. And we played
Sorry,
we played 3 Third Eye Blind covers, and we like one Bowling for Soup tune, and then whatever I'd write, and I'd like show them to them and be like, "Hey guys, we could play this," and they'd be like, "Nah," but like good job. I imagine that's what it was like when Ringo Starr wrote songs. It's like, hey, good for you, but like, let's go back to this.
Here we go. We're gonna place this right on the fridge. Great job, Ringo.
But so we would do that, and we were playing a coffee house at our school, and the principal was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go out, like, give an update, and I'm gonna introduce the band. What's the name of the band?" We're like, "We're Sans Pussy." He's like, "No, you're not." So we go out there, and we're like,
"Have you seen us? We definitely are.
Look at us." And so we go out there, and he introduces us as this unknown. Like he's like, this band doesn't have a name, even though he blatantly lied to my classmates. And then we're out there, and I'm like, you know what? Like, screw these guys. Like,
you could have been currently nameless.
We could have, but
taken.
And I'm like, all right, you know what? Like, screw these guys. Like, I'm gonna play an acoustic song. And I remember being devastated. I thought this was gonna derail my entire my lust to be a musician. I was like, I'm gonna play this acoustic song, and some kid, like the popular kid, yells from the back corner. He's like, "Oh, wake me when it's over." And everybody laughed. And from then on, we were "Wake Me When It's Over" was our band name, and played through high school, and then did the college band thing because that's what you do.
Right. Did you graduate Milton too?
No, I went to Fairfax. I went to BFA Fairfax.
My mom graduated BFA Fairfax in '73, 20 years before I did.
Right. All three people that go to BFA Fairfax.
Yeah, I was actually in there earlier this year looking at their floors for my day job thing. So
sweet,
I don't know if it's changed a whole lot.
You put in a bowling alley?
No, we don't do bowling alleys.
Are you going to put it right next to my monument, or like where are those new floors going?
Have they put together a monument for you?
I'm trying to get them to rename the gym after me, and they're like, Troy, you never went in there. Like,
very nice. So, where'd you go to college then?
I went to St. Mike's, right down the road.
I DJ'd at St. Mike's.
Really? Yeah. WPV? Is that the? Yeah.
And I never went there, but I DJ'd there 98 to 2002. So, speaking again about how old I am. That was actually my first when I was like, you know what, commercial radio really stinks. I want to have a musical outlet to play what I want, and that's where I was in 98 to 02. So they've always been a great supporter of local music around there.
I was just thinking that same thing. I was like, if you had to like relate a radio station in the area to like a venue, I'd say like WWPV is the monkey house of radio stations, because I've seen so many bands like that. Joseph, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Joseph. But they just like would hang out at St. Mike's every time they came to town and play. And now they're on tour with the Derek Trucks.
Tedeschi Trucks?
Tedeschi Trucks,
nice.
yeah. It's just like, oh, yeah, like I saw them like trying to not sit in their van, sitting in the St. Mike's lobby. And they just go play a couple tunes on PV. And
well, I wish college radio had the financial support that it could have, because WRUV out of UVM is the same exact way. If they had the wattage to actually have a signal beyond their dorm rooms, basically, those stations would be the ones that I would choose to listen to around here, because we were just quickly talking about it before we clicked record that commercial radio is just so drab and so boring.
Even the non-commercial commercial radio. Yeah. But I mean, you as a radio guy, like the streaming thing, like is there life beyond that like 100-yard radius that your college?
There definitely is, and it's a matter of finding one and a matter of having the patience. But I've been saying up and down now ever since I joined. I've been a Spotify user for about 6-8 years, but I finally got premium, and now ever since I went premium, I'll just never do anything again, and I'll do their radio essentially, which jumps off a artist and then goes off from there. And that's how I discovered Tyler Childers, who I'm a humongous fan of this year, and some other great artists, Mandolin Orange, who's going to be coming to Higher Ground in February, and a lot of different bands and whatnot. So
if you like Tyler Childers, you got to check out Whiskey Myers.
I have heard Whiskey Myers. I was actually in where were we? Fort Worth, Texas. They were in town. I actually have a Whiskey Myers CD because they were playing at the big honky tonk, and I was trying to go in and just to check out this place. And they're like, "Oh, you got to buy a ticket." And the band wasn't on for like 2 hours. I'm like, "Oh, I just want to look at the place." And they're going to buy a ticket. So I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to buy a ticket." So, but I'll always remember Whiskey Myers for that. And they've been to Higher Ground twice since then, and I've not seen them, but I did buy their CD as kind of a souvenir when I was leaving Texas a couple of years ago, my first visit to Texas.
Are you guys just going to start listing names of bands? This is going to be like the Book of Kings.
Right. That's exactly why I came here.
We could. I just saw Tyler Childers in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago. He happened to be in town when I was there, and it was mighty hard to get a ticket, but I managed to get one, and he's the second time I've seen him this year. So
Coulter Wall's another dude, like in that same vein that just, and I think those are guys. I just watched the, jumping genres a little bit. I just watched the Springsteen on Broadway special on Netflix.
I saw your tweet.
And I think that there's something really special about a guy who can like, isn't the best vocalist you've ever heard, isn't the best guitar player you've ever heard, but will silence a room just like because everybody wants to hear what you have to say. I just think that's incredible. And I think Coulter Wall, Tyler Childers, I mean, I think they're, as far as like the modern day, superstar, the guy who
Right.
quiets that room. I think they're right up there with
Right.
Isbell and
Yeah, Isabel's right there. Andy and I saw Sturgill's Hymns in this year at Shelburne
Sturgill's
Museum,
so
which was
good.
just amazing. I mean, and you can ask anybody I know back before this year, my mantra, when anyone asked me what I listened to, my mantra was anything but country. And I've listened to more country music in the last year, but I say intelligent country, not the, I want to check you for ticks.
Right.
My wife left me, my dog's dead. I lost my trailer in a divorce country. I've listened to real country music, and Chris Stapleton helped lead the way. I mean, what he
Steel
writes,
Drivers.
Steel Drivers.
well, Stapleton was
it's-
leading the way before he knew he was leading.
Yeah.
Stapleton was leading the way before he was leading the pack, I guess is how I
Yeah.
want to say that. Because this guy, I mean, you look at the probably 100 biggest country hits of the last 5 to 10 years,
And he's
including the
Yeah.
drive a truck, drink a beer, take your shirt off country music. And he's got his hands and he's got his fingers in everything.
Yep.
And he's just a guy, I feel like he's one of those songwriters like Jason Isbell that can, and I mean, going back further, like John Prine, who can just put themselves in a character, put themselves in a situation and spit out a 3-minute story that's no matter where you're from, you can be like, yeah, I see that. That makes sense to me.
Yep, absolutely. As I crack this one, I think we should say that so far the podcast has been brought to you by the brand new Switchback IPA, which just hit the shelves this past Friday, actually. It's fantastic.
By brought to you, we don't mean that they're
No, they're
sponsoring
not
the podcast.
sponsoring, although I
Not
will,
yet.
Bill Cherry, I will accept anything you want to throw my way. Megan Gorton,
Yeah.
Facebook friend of mine, Road Warrior sales gal. But that was fantastic. And then we just finished the brand newish Good Water Reservoir collaboration Big Tree Reservoir Pale
It's
Ale.
a friendly IPA.
It's a friendly IPA. It was helped co-brewed by Michael Leiser, formerly of Frost Beer Works. And now as of Farnham, I just found out. And our next beer is going to be brought to us by my good friend Brian, your good friend Brian Eckert in Four Quarters Brewery.
Quarters.
And their brand new
Collab.
with Night Shift and my friend Isaac Boucher and their Night Shift Shakedown, which is a Neapolitan milkshake double IPA. And if you hurry, there's still some on the shelves. And it's great, and I'm glad to share this last one with you guys. So Andy just needs to finish that beer.
I can do that.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
capable.
So is a milkshake IPA a thing? Is
Yeah,
that because
it's-
Farnham that's the only one
Yes.
I've ever seen.
It's very much a thing. It's been a couple of years now, going back to really tired hands out of Ardmore, PA was the first that was really promoting it. Kind of a consistency thing with lactose and thickness. It's kind of a haze overkill, but it's definitely a consistency thing, a real thicker mouthfeel. And I'm surprised that it took a little while for the Vermont breweries to catch on, but Burlington Beer's been making them. Four Quarters has just wrapped up their third. They did a their fourth. Strawberry,
Shakedown.
blueberry, peach, and now the Night Shift, which I will say I actually had a hand in them brewing that because I had actually
That is
tweeted them
delicious.
one night during a beer chat, which is, if it happens, Thursday night at 9 on Twitter. Eastern
Hashtag
time.
beer chat.
Hashtag beer chat. I tagged Brian and Isaac about getting together and
I used to
brewing a
do
beer. So
beer chats back in the day
Yeah,
when
me
I was
too. It's been
when I was imbibed the times, and now I'm just one who sees dimly. But I've always
So,
been one who sees dimly.
Yes, you are. So a lot of strawberry on it. It's, of course, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry inspired. But so if you want to, let's say, what is, as you, and maybe this has changed a little bit for you over the years, Troy, but when you first started off playing 8 years ago, maybe Third Eye Blind was your inspiration, but who else were you kind of leaning on, so to speak, or did inspire you when you were first starting off on the scene?
So in 2010, it's funny, I just saw the band that I think everybody has that band that inspires them to I could, that's what I want to do. And then you see that band that's I could definitely do that. And it's not that you see a band that's so horrible. It's not like you go see Citizen Bear and you're like, oh, I could do Totally kidding.
It's fine.
He
It's
took
that
he
first
took
time-
a swing at the Cowboys, and I was just feeling
Yeah.
defensive.
It's that first time I saw Troy's medley, and I was like, "Oh, we should do more medleys.
Right,
Those
we
are
should just
easy."
play 4 chords. Those are I know 6, so I like to work 4 into any given tune. But no, so I went and saw Scars on 45. They were called, and they're this English band. I saw them at Higher Ground, and I was just. It wasn't a show, man. It was just these 4 really talented, really genuine people playing tunes in front of a room of people. And the first time I saw Third Eye Blind, which is when I would say that that's what I wanted to do. that was like a rock show. Like Stephen Jenkins thought he was Gene Simmons that night. Like it was a big production. These guys just had these pretty little songs, like 3-piece acoustic guitar, drums, and keys, and they just played. And they just came to the Zen Barn in Waterbury last week, and I
thought I heard that name recently. Okay, yeah.
And I saw them for the second time, and I just totally, it was one of those like euphoric moments where I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. This is the stuff right here. So I'd say I was listening to a lot of those kind of like easy listening bands. You know, a lot of '90s Matchbox 20, Hootie and the Blowfish, but the newer stuff too.
Hey, Hootie's getting back together next year. Did you see that? Big tour of 2019.
Yeah, I mean we're chatting about maybe jumping on one of those Hootie dates. There's some allure there. We might.
Wow. I thought Bare Naked Ladies is opening, and I'll say this holiday season. I saw Bare Naked Ladies in 2005. It was the debut first show of the holiday tour, and they, as they said, you are the furthest away from Christmas. And it was back when Stephen J. Page was in the band, and they were one of the best shows I had ever seen.
I just saw them 2 years ago at the Flynn, and it was incredible. You brought up Milton High School, so I went to Milton Elementary School, and I found myself in Mr. Christie's, the disciplinary at Milton High School.
We work with him now.
Yeah, really? That's hilarious.
He just started up.
For using Ask Jeeves and asking Jeeves about Bare Naked Ladies because I liked 1 week. And that's an unfortunate Google search in an elementary school.
You know, I was going to say, during my prepubescent days living in Milton, close enough to Canada, we would get the CF-CF12 and we would get the CTV. And I remember one night in the early 90s when I was, I don't know, probably 13 or 14 years old, and parents had gone to bed, just flipping through the channels, and I see that the Bare Naked Ladies are on the CTV.
Bow, chicka, bow.
Man,
I'm moving to Montreal.
I was so excited. And so I flipped to the channel, and I was disappointed at first. I'm not gonna lie.
Stephen J. Page doesn't quite do it for you.
I was like, what in the is this? This is not Bare Naked Ladies. And then, I don't even know. It probably was, if I Had $1 Million came on, I was like, oh, well, this is good.
Yeah.
This is good, too.
Yeah.
If I had $1 million, I would buy that VHS tape of the real Bare Naked Ladies.
It was back in the day when you flip through the stations, and then that one station would come on, it'd be a little fuzzy, and every once in a while you'd see like a boob or something, you'd be all excited. Back in the day,
I was introduced to Bare Naked Ladies when I was in college in '93 because one of the guys I went to school was Canadian.
You're from Milton. You saw Bare Naked Ladies.
Huge Bare Naked Ladies fan. I think when you're from Canada, you're obligated to like those Canadian bands like Glass Tiger and Rush. And Tragically Hip.
Blue
Rodeo is one, but Bare Naked Ladies was one too. But yes, they were undoubtedly one of the best shows I've ever saw. So when I saw they were opening for Hootie, I was like, if they could get Stephen J. Page together back with them, that would be a great tour.
I think that's a Stephen J. not wanting to at this point, though. Now,
well, they kicked him out after this cocaine and hookers episode in upstate New York.
But he just did the Juno Awards. They accepted that Lifetime Achievement Award, and
that was great too.
Phenomenal. And I think his statement after that was fairly elegant. That like Bare Naked Ladies have become something beyond his time there. Not that I think that it's better or worse, but I thought that was like a really elegant thing for him to say. Which kind of, I was just thinking, if you look at these 90, we just saw Matchbox 20 and Counting Crows 2 summers ago.
Live in Counting Crows.
Live. And I really think it's like, just listening to those new Counting Crows records and Bare Naked Ladies, when I saw them, their new material is on par with the stuff that was hits in the 90s.
Right.
Like, if you take any of that material and put it back in 95, and it's a hit again,
right.
And I think that's what I said when we got to open on a side stage for Counting Crows and live, and you just hear some of these massive. You hear Lightning Crashes and I Alone and Mr. Jones around here. It's like some of those albums still are so relevant. It's like you put that on the radio, you call the buzz up, be like, hey, there's this song Lightning Crashes. It becomes a hit again today in 2018. Right. I think Bare Naked Ladies have material that holds up today.
They got some great songs.
20 years later.
That was like Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody.
and it
Was
became
it
a
20
hit again
was it
when
20
Wayne's
years?
World came out,
Yes.
is what it was. And
It was-
now the movie just came out, and it probably is charting all over again. I haven't looked, but
Most streamed
Well-
song of the 20th century, Bohemian Rhapsody.
is it really?
So
Yeah.
the
Cheers.
girl Sophie is in middle school now, and they're doing Sophie's in middle school now, and they're actually doing Queen in the spring. So she's singing all the songs. She's like, you know this song? We will rock you. I'm like,
Speaking of
Yeah.
of nudity, my dad was a big Queen fan. My parents were big classic rock fans growing up. My dad, I remember him. He was telling me they went and saw Queen. So we actually had I can't remember if it was the name of the album, but it was the album that the bicycle race was on. So if you actually took out the album and the insert was actually a bunch of naked women on bicycles inside in the sleeve, and it was like when you're growing up and you grab that and you go, "Yeah, Dad, thank you."
that's every December and April at UVM.
Yes, the naked bike
The
ride.
naked bike ride.
that it is, but there's some of those folk that need to put some clothes on.
The first time I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, I need to dig the bike out of the garage my freshman year of college. He's like, why? I'm like, I've never seen you ride that thing. I'm like, yeah, don't ask questions. Like, I need to get in the garage, Dad.
I said, I need the bike.
So why don't we, I'd say let's break up a little bit of the monotony of the talking. And
Sure.
you brought this beautiful new guitar
Yeah.
you just picked up, Troy. We obviously want to have you play some songs, so we'll break up some of the monotony here and have you play a tune. We want to have you play a couple of tunes. And
So
we're gonna talk
shameless
about
plug
some,
or no? Are you gonna play something off the upcoming album?
I can play something off the upcoming. Maybe I'll play something off the upcoming second album, which at the rate I release music will be like 2025.
2025. My
When
gosh.
you're hanging out with a young guy who's 24 years old and he's like, I think I went to high school. I think my parents went to high school with you.
Right. Well, yeah, the next time I release an album, there'll be people saying that to me. Like, you went to high school with my parents. I'll be like, yeah, my band's still better than yours. Cool. Yeah, so I'll do something that's not going to be on that EP, but
Okay.
we'll circle back around to those. There's only 5 songs on it, so we got plenty of time.
All the time.
But this is a song called Fix This, and I wrote this because I tried to write a song every day I had 2 weeks vacation from work, and I had nothing going on. I was like, I'm going to write a song every single day. And so this is a song about a fictional girl. I didn't even mess it up, but I was like, if I could somehow convince her that we needed to be together, I'd mess it up pretty good, and I could write this song. So I just skipped a few steps.
Down to Pensacola on a southbound train, 4 in the morning and it's pouring rain. I thought for a second, might have got this wrong. We were 4 years down before the winter came. Cut your hair and you changed your name. Saw everything you wanted and it's gone. But I don't wanna fix this. Wanna try and make it right. I don't wanna forget for another night, just to lift you up and then watch me fall. Empty bedrooms and missed phone calls. I'm sure I'm gonna miss this part. I don't wanna fix this, but I bet you're wide awake and you've seen that note. Doors unlocked and I packed my clothes. Almost hear your voice, can't stay. There's a whole new world beyond the county line. Whole new view if you take your time. Swear to God, those clouds they go away. But I don't wanna fix this. Wanna try and make it right. I don't wanna forget. Lift you up and then watch me fall. Empty bedrooms and missed phone calls. Sure I'm gonna miss this, but I don't wanna fix this. Heading down to Pensacola on a southbound train. 4 in the morning and it's pouring rain. Thought for a second, might have got this wrong. But I don't wanna fix this. Wanna try and make it right. I don't wanna forget. For another night, just to lift you up and then watch me fall. Empty bedrooms and missed phone calls. Sure I'm gonna miss this, but I don't wanna fix this.
Nice.
It's been a while since I
do,
played that one.
I do remember. I remember when you wrote that. You're like, "Hey man, I want to play this song for you." I'm like, "All right." And it's really hard for me, Troy, when you're playing one of your tunes, not to sing harmonies.
Do it.
Because I'm like, the melody's just so good, and it lends itself, and the words are easy to get into as well. I think that's what I appreciate about your songs is they're really inviting.
That's what I like to hear. I invite people to spend their $10 is what.
But no, you're
I appreciate
really good,
that, man. Thank you so much.
You're a really good songwriter. And a lot of times, whether it's around the fire or up at Nectar's or Higher Ground or Bank of America Pavilion, I think that's the nice thing about your songs is they are so like you're writing about relatable topics, and you hit those keywords that really connect for me anyway. Cool. And your melodies are super. They're really catchy, and you can get into them. I really appreciate that about your songwriting.
I mean, coming from the guy who wrote On and On, which is like
yeah.
a song no, you laugh, but that's a song I sing all the time, so I really appreciate that.
Well,
on top of the other 100 tunes you have that are equally as good, if not better.
Well, thanks, man.
You guys need to get a room?
Yeah.
We have one. We're saying here.
No, it's true. And the song is kind of a lost art. I mean, there's so in the scene that I like, that I've been listening to probably the most of the last 25 years, being more jam, improvisational oriented. It's the song itself is the instrumentation and is not the lyric or the vocal. So I kind of lose track of the song, and that's what's attracted me a lot to some of this country that I've been listening to the last year. Is the song is truly there, and I was always I could never get into poetry because I couldn't decipher, and I'm still not good about reading between the lines in reality or in songs. So yeah, I see those fingers. So I know what you mean there, but
okay, I'm just wondering.
Sometimes I don't. I could use a thesaurus or a dictionary or an encyclopedia to decipher some songs, but a lot of the great music that I've been listening to as of late, it's the song, the craftsmanship of the actual song is.
Well, you think of the troubadours. You think of the troubadours, the guys that have. These songs that if you look back and you really hear something and you're like. It really speaks to who you are. Like it's not lofty. I think that was the thing about Dylan.
I've never gotten into him.
That was the thing about Woody.
Ever.
That was the thing about Woody Guthrie.
He'd be thrilled to hear you say that.
Hey, he insult me, but I wouldn't understand what he was saying. And it was funny. You mentioned Bruce Springsteen earlier, and I've never really been into Bruce. I've listened to a little bit over the last couple of years. I'm like, all right, I kind of get why there's some appeal, but I've never seen him. So of course that's always a lost opportunity right there.
I'm just gonna rabbit trail real quick. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, that milkshake.
You can taste the strawberry,
There's a lot of strawberry,
the chocolate, and the vanilla. Like I can taste all flavors distinctly.
Is this the Farnham or the Four Quarters?
No, Four Quarters night shift. Yeah, so it is really, really good. And I get very strawberry prevalent, so that's about where my palate gets. You don't
catch the chocolate?
I do. It's okay. I've been drinking so much heavy stout that the chocolate is always so prevalent on those nowadays. With this, it's a little bit more subtle.
Yes,
but it's really good. So
I did brew a beer one time that very nearly won an award.
S'mores?
It was no, it wasn't a s'mores because the people kept wanting me to put honey in it, and I'm not a huge honey guy. But they're like, "Yeah, if you want to get that graham cracker flavor, you gotta put some honey in there." I'm like, no, I refuse to. So no, we just did a imperial chocolate stout, I think is what we did.
Very nice. And it's stout season with a change of the year. So you've been playing for a while, Troy. Looking back, what was kind of the learning lessons way back when, and when you sit back and think about it now, that you kind of take the morals or lessons learned over those first couple of years?
Oh man, I mean, I think the lesson is something that I probably just to kiss ass a little bit. Something that I probably learned from Andy, which is like kindness especially in a small scene, is just being receptive and appreciative of what other people are doing, and being friendly and not being afraid to give that compliment or talk to people is like that's huge. Making those connections is huge. I know we were just talking about Andy and I went to see a band, the Ballroom Thieves, the other night, and Ryan Motley was standing right behind us. And, to get to just turn around and, to be like, hey, man, like, he just released a live album, which is incredible.
Yeah,
I like kind of crush on Ryan a little bit.
So good.
The Woodstock session. I think there's a vinyl. I didn't know that. I just saw it on Instagram. I'm like, but it's so good. And just to be able to turn around and like, Ryan Motley, as far as Vermont musicians go, like Ryan Motley is like one of those top, right up there with Ryan Miller from Guster, and Grace Potter's not even a Vermonter anymore, but he's up there, and to just turn around and be like, man, great album, and like there's no like power struggle there, and he's like, yeah, man, like I see you hanging around with Isaac French all the time, like I've heard your tune, and like I'm glad you like, just to be on that kind of same, maybe not on the same page as some of these people, but I feel like we're all kind of reading from the same book at least. I feel like everybody's on everybody's radar, and everybody really appreciates and respects what other people are doing.
There's no ego, not that there's not egocentric musicians, but really most of them that are out there in the club scene around Burlington, that ego does not exist. Which
it is cool. There. The thing is, like, it's one thing to be in Boston, New York City, or L.A., or Atlanta, or Austin. Those places are big. You're in Nashville. You're going to run into people maybe once in a while. In Vermont, like you're going to run into somebody. You're going to run into them. You're going to see them outside the club.
Right.
Like 100%.
Right.
And you learn pretty quick. It's like, it's just, for me, it's always the golden rule. Is this the way I want other people to treat me? No, it's not. So I'm going to treat people the way that I'd like to be treated. Right. And I think that's how, in a small community, I think that's how you should treat it. Although, when I I've lived in metropolitan areas, and I try to do that just because it's a lot easier than I don't like those uncomfortable feelings.
I mean, it's you catch people on a bad day. I get it. Not everybody's going to be their 100% best self on every occasion. But man, I would be hard pressed right now, and I mean this genuinely, to like make a list in my head of 5 people who I really felt like I was like, I was disappointed by them as a human, as much as I respect their art. I really just think everybody. I mean, in Burlington's such a diverse scene. I mean, I see Clever Girls. They're like this indie punk female fronted rock group, and I'm like, that's not what I mean, you just heard what I do. That's not my thing. But I listen to this, I'm like, man, every time I see their front woman Diane like at Muddy Waters, I'm just like, that Clever Girls record's like in my head. I'm like, man, can I ask her to sign it even though she's like eating a scone?
I think she'd probably do that.
Right. Well, then I'd have to go buy it because I just stream it for free, and it's a whole thing.
The Scone.
Yeah, not the Scone.
Streaming Scones is a great band name.
That's my next podcast.
That'd be a great name for a podcast as well.
Streaming
Scones. Oh, yeah.
You just put on a record, and then you eat scones and discuss it at the end?
Really good.
This is a little dry.
This album and the scone, a little dry for me.
Exactly. This one could be a little more moist.
So how far into your performance career, so to speak, Troy, did you kind of think, I want to do this? This is where I see my future, like right off the bat?
I think there's the turning point was like not sending out emails to be like, can I please come just play here? And like getting those emails and be like, hey, we want you to come play here. And I was like, I think every musician who just loves playing and writing just has that, like, you feel like you're getting away with something. You're like, really? You want me to come? Like, every time while I'm setting up, I'm just like, they know it's me, right? That I'm going to do this, and they're going to give me money and beer to do this. And so it's one of those things that's just kind of, I think like anything else, it snowballs into, you don't realize it's something that you can do until it's something you're doing.
Right.
So I feel like that's just kind of there's been moments where I mean driving to New Hampshire to like play a show where my name is on the same poster as Counting Crows and Live. I'm like, this is real life. Like I'm doing this right now, which is but I don't think that I've had like that moment that's just like, oh, I'm a musician now. Maybe someday.
Well, you keep sticking with it. So, you're a couple of years in, did you start traveling out of Vermont right off the bat, or did you really try to keep it under you?
That's still kind of a tough market to break into, I think. We going to St. Mike's, and I played with Dylan Gombas, a fiddle player.
Mm-hmm.
We, small school, a lot of friends, a lot of connections, and you're just like, oh, we have 15 friends who live outside of Boston, so let's go play in Boston. And, it's like, oh, Plattsburgh's close, let's start doing it. And you slowly start to branch out. We played probably the worst show we've ever played for the best reasons was we played in Montreal, and we played, and we found this French opener on Facebook just by literally went on Facebook and typed in French singer, and I sent her a message. I probably looked super creepy, and she came and opened, and she brought like a ton of people, and we had like 2 people there that actually cared who we were. So we start playing these songs, and they're singing the songs back to us, not our songs because we're not there yet, but they were singing in French. So I just like, after the wine, couldn't really comprehend that I should keep singing in English and not just mouth the French words back to them. so we haven't played in Canada again, but I'm thinking 2019 might be the year we go back to Montreal.
Well, and Burlington works vice versa. I've been a music hound for, I'll say 25 years now, and I've seen many.
How old are you, Troy?
Yeah,
24.
I know. Thank you for reminding me. Many great national live traveling bands that come to Burlington for their first or second time or third time. And there'll be virtually no one in the crowd. What's tough is a majority of our scene are college kids, so they kind of refresh every year. But I've seen, many shows where I'm like one of 8 people in the crowd. I remember going to see Humphreys McGee for the first time at Club Metronome in 2001, I want to say. The main core of their audience were actually were Notre Dame fans of theirs doing the whole Northeast tour, but Vermont brought 10 people. And back then it was much harder to discover new music, but it takes Burlington, conversely, to come back into this town and to set up an audience takes a lot of hard work. And Ryan Montbleu was 8 years in of being a Massachusetts citizen before he moved up here, but I would come up and I would see him in Burlington. First time I saw him, he was doing a weekly residency at Nectar's 10 years ago. And he was here 4 weeks that month, and then 2 months later and 2 months later, and you almost need to hit this market that hard to break through, unless you're an incredible, live band where nowadays word of mouth travels much, much different with social and the websites and things like that. But getting into this town is tough, and that's why Radio Bean and Light Club and Manhattan Pizza are these really in-demand stages, because people look up at Burlington, Vermont, and they think, and they know our reputation of being an incredible music town, and they'll come and play, for free, which is tough. I mean, bands are basically losing their shirts going on a tour because they're playing for free and paying gas to get there and not getting merch and whatnot, not selling anything. But it takes nowadays what's crazy is it takes a viral song to turn that 180. But those bands, did you read about that heavy metal band that booked the European tour recently?
Yeah, I was just reading about that today.
That's fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
I don't even blame. I mean, I'm reading the comments of this guy. I'm like, yeah, like this guy just got caught breaking the system. Because I as you're speaking, Eric, I'm like kind of thinking, I think it's a little harder to draw a crowd than people would think in the social media era.
Oh,
it's like, how do you do something live that people feel like they can't just like pull up your Snapchat story and see what you like? Oh, I've seen the show.
They don't need to go out.
Video.
Right. Everything's at the tip of your fingers.
Right. Video is everywhere nowadays. And the worst part is, especially with free shows, is the Facebook interested button, where, there's supposed to be 150 people here. They all said they were interested. Well, it's real easy to be non-committal on a free show where you're just clicking that button. And if you rely on that to think that's going to be your audience, you're sadly mistaken. And you almost need a built-in crowd room to kind of break into some of the scene around here.
You can get in some trouble during these social media days. And I would say in the last 10 years, I probably have overpromised a couple times just based on what you see, the responses from something. And where you're like, well, do you think you can fill this room? And you're like, I don't know. And then you look at the responses coming in. You're like, yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem. And you're like, guys, you got to get there early. This is going to be crazy. And then it turns out it's not crazy.
Right. It's difficult. And I've seen it, with kids growing up. I mean, when you have kids at home and you don't live the single life, and you see it as you go and play with the Owl Stars. You and your wife are going out and playing, 2 girls at home. You need to hire a babysitter. I mean, even as a musician, you were experiencing difficulties going out and playing a gig, not to mention as an audience member. I mean, just to go out and see anybody nowadays takes a babysitter, takes committal, takes, oh my God, past my bedtime, whatever it is. Unless it's someone that it's like, I cannot miss this, or a very, very good friend, I have a hard time getting out of the house. I'm 10 minutes from Burlington.
I'm trying to think. Troy, over the last 4 weeks, how many bands have you invited me to come see, and how many have I come out to?
Well, you came out one time. I probably invited you 6 or 7 at least.
I think so.
I'm in an interesting place that I can, I don't have the wife and kid thing. I mean, the hardest part for me is like, I have a lot of friends in bands. It's like, oh yeah, I want to see my friends' band. I want to see my friends. I want to see my friends' bands, but we're in the same line of work. So when they're out playing, I'm out playing, and you had that back when Citizen Bear was popular. You meet all these great people, make all these great connections, but sorry guys, my weekends are kind of busy.
I mean, I spent 1 year, so 2012, 2013, really trying to kill it out in the scene. Just being out all the time in the scene, just trying to really get the name out there, trying to catch momentum, trying to go for it. Not only be out there playing music, but also be out there and just be seen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, at that point, Stella was 2, Sophie was 4, and Liz was
miserable.
She was.
I'm looking for a number, actually.
She's awesome. She's been very supportive of the music. Obviously, she's in the All-Stars. She's a huge part of what I do musically. But after a while, it definitely starts to grate on you, because it's like you're asking people in your life to sacrifice, know, and so. I
mean, I think that's it. There's so many angles from. Musicians give up so much to do what they like to do, but also the people. I mean, I can't tell you. I can't imagine how fed up my friends are with getting the like, hey man, like really want you to come out, really want you to come out. And I genuinely mean that I want them to come out, and I think they genuinely want to support, but you can't every time. I mean, at 2016, Dylan, between what I was doing solo and sitting in with people and playing with Dylan, I mean, I did over 130 shows.
Yeah,
jeez. Like 130. Like I'm leaving the house with a guitar in hand to go do this, and that's a lot. And I mean, that's a lot of time to ask people, or that's a lot of, just to make it cheesy, that's a lot of like, hey, dude, I know we've been friends since we were 3, and I'd love to be at your birthday, but I'm playing in Lebanon, and you're going to be passed out by the time I get home. So, like, hope 22 is a good one, Like, and it's tough. And, that's not as much of a sacrifice as, like, hey, Sophie, sorry I'm not going to be home for Christmas, which is, like, when you get to a Ryan Montbleu, Grace Potter stage, that's a very realistic sacrifice. And I mean, it comes down to that in
even like this degrees. Year. So last year, I filled in for a friend who was feeling ill for a New Year's Eve show.
Who was that? I heard the guy who was supposed to play was good.
He was pretty good. He flaked out though. He flakes out sometimes. And Liz this year is like, I was like, hey, what do you want to do for New Year's Eve? She goes, I don't know. You going to be around? I'm like,
oh no, let me take Troy to the doctors, get a quick checkup, and I'll let you know.
So no, this year I'm not available for shows on New Year's Eve, Troy. Sorry, man.
You're on a short leash. Last time I was out seeing a show, I was like, hey, Liz. I was like, where's Andy? She goes, he went out last night, so tonight's my night.
Yeah.
Oh, so that show in question, that Milton Busker
album release. Yeah. Go buy Milton Busker's album.
Oh my goodness!
It's grim work, but it's pretty
Milton
good.
Milton Busker and the grim work. Yes, yes, Milton Busker.
No, so I was thinking this when you were saying like, well, I said because I'm a genius. Social media, like how, bringing people out. I feel like Milton Busker's one of those dudes that no matter how many videos I've seen of him, besides that new music video, which is crazy good,
so good,
he has this presence. Again, I'm like just gonna go with all the cheese, but like you see Milton at Radio Bean, and it's a weird feeling in the air, and like that feeling doesn't translate as much as the record is emotive. It's like, man, that's a guy you have to see. I think Ryan Montbleu is a guy you have to see to really get it.
I think, and Liz actually said it to me at the last Milton Busker show. She's like, does he have management? And I'm like, no. She goes, he's going to need it, right? Like they have that capacity.
He did ask me.
Did he? He's looking at online press kits, and it's obviously not about him, but we encourage everybody to support local music and support my friend who I've known for 27 years now or whatever.
And there's so much.
How old are you, Troy?
Yeah.
Nina's Brew is another band that I think. I mean, everybody. I could go through my phone right now and pull out the name of 10 musicians who I'm like, oh yeah, like if they just like caught that spark, they got that opportunity, like they'd be huge.
Isaac's new album's really good. Isaac French just put out a new album. It's really good.
And it's like I don't even know. So you go see Isaac. He's like got this really cool, raspy, soulful voice. Sits behind the keys. This is a true blue pop album.
Well,
these are these big hooks.
For Nina's Brew, he plays the cajon.
The cajon.
Okay, he's in that. Okay, and like every time I see Steve Hartman with you guys, who comes in and sits in on set break or whatever it is, Steve's incredible. Like
Steve's
just like,
really good.
To see some of these artists that are just like around town that are playing.
Steve's another one of those guys who you'll see at like Oak 45, which I know isn't there anymore in Winooski, but he'll be at a wine bar, and then the next night he'll be opening up for Bryan Adams.
That's not a bad
we were
guess.
there.
We're right there. Right. I like how I like to give Steve shit about Bryan Adams, but I played with Rick Springfield, and he has never once made a negative comment.
And I swear, I left her
bio.
by the river.
Oh, Richard
Marks.
So are we mixing this?
Yeah, we are. Can we go to part 2?
Can we go to part 2? Oh, you got to go to the little boys' room?
No, but I'd like to get.
You get
more,
to a certain age, you got to use the.
I'm kind of. I know you don't have a.
I got to pause and I can just piece it together.
I was thinking we'd split it up so it was.
Oh, like 2 parts of the podcast in
Yeah.
general? Okay, then we should do another song and then a promotion of this week because that's an important part.
Sure, let's
right?
do that. Yeah, let's
What am
do
I
a
doing
song.
this week?
Well, what
What
are you
am I?
guys both doing this week? Because you're involved too. I mean, it's like getting the band back together, literally.
By accident.
Oh. Okay,
Sort of.
All right, so that being said, so we're talking about Friday, December 21st.
Yes.
14 Star Brewery in St. Albans. Everybody knows we're 14 Star up here in Vermont.
Yeah, this is Troy's 4th year doing this event.
No, this is our 6th year doing this event.
Oh.
Well, kind of the 4th year because Andy's been involved for 4 years.
So I don't think nothing really starts until I'm a part of it.
Right. Yeah, like the dawn of creation. Andy opened his eyes. He's like, I'm glad the world is here for these people now. But yeah, we do this Home for the Holidays show every year, and I think you've officially been on the bill. I think 4 years.
3 years.
3 years.
This will be my 3rd year.
And the 4th year, you just showed up. You're like, I'm playing that first year. But yeah, we every the Friday before Christmas for the last 6 years, we've put together a show, kind of get everybody together one last time before the holiday, and we donate the proceeds of that event to a charitable cause. And this year we're donating to Autism Speaks. And this year I'm playing with a brand spanking new full band. We have Chris and Erica, who's a great local duo. They just got back from Nashville recording their...
Those two are great.
Oh, man, they're so good.
So good together.
Really good.
And they're the nicest people. Like they could be horrible, and I would still go see them every time I could. They're just the sweetest. And then I reached out to Andy because I'm like, it's like wedding. If you know someone's going to crash your wedding, you might as well just like give them a table. So we reached out to Andy. I'm like, hey man, like you want to come play? And he's like, oh well, Andy James is not available, but Citizen Bear will come out and play, and I'm super excited to. I missed the Citizen Bear thing. I was like a little kind. We were on opposite.
Your last show was at 14 Star. I was at that show, correct?
It was, yeah. The
years ago now.
as I've heard a couple times, yes. The second last show was at 14 Star.
Second to last?
No, just the second last show. We did our last show at Metronome.
Oh, yeah, I vaguely remember that.
And then we kept playing because we brought in Johnny Melly to replace John Grattan.
Oh, okay.
So we played all of 2015 with Johnny Melly.
Yeah.
And then we just decided to call it at the end of 2015.
Has it been that long already? When was that?
I know,
14
it's crazy.
Star
I remember seeing the Facebook event for that.
2016.
That was 2016? Okay.
Yep.
So is this the first official Citizen Bear show you've played since then?
Yes.
So that's starting up 6 p.m. this Friday night?
Yeah.
6 p.m. St. Albans, Vermont.
It's free to get in. We're accepting donations, but
Okay,
it's totally we understand that this is a tight time of year.
Well, the nice thing about 14 Star is built-in crowd, Friday night, Franklin County. I mean, they're only open 4 to 10. I mean, the place is jamming.
Right.
It's...
Listen, I don't want to oversell this thing, but get there early because from the Facebook interest, it is gonna be
It's gonna
lit.
be hopping.
Wait, Wait a second. I just pressed interested too, like everybody else.
Yeah, he did. I noticed that. I was like doing some Facebook scrolling. I was like, oh, this jerk. He wants to promote this show. He's not even committed.
Well, I told her the other night, I'm like, look, if the Christmas presents are wrapped for Friday night, I'm going to go down to 14 Star. The problem is well, living 35 minutes away, when they close at 10, it's like, and we have a kid bedtime at 8 o'clock, you're either like skipping out before bedtime or, you're missing out on everything. So this will be a night where, because I want to see Citizen Bear, of course, I'll need to get out of here early, which, hey, I'd like to actually Uber up there if I could to get away with not having to drive up and drive back.
Oh, we'll offer that service for a 30% markup, actually.
If you make a big enough donation to Autism Speaks, we'll figure out a way to get you somewhere.
Like, oh man, I woke up on Andy's floor again.
I haven't been up there in a bit either. Do we need to two-part this, other than for you to just go pee with your little boy?
I don't have to pee. I was just trying to think of the listener.
I don't know if we necessarily. Hey, we haven't been going all that tremendously long, so to speak. I want to get Troy on the guitar.
I want to hear some more Troy songs.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
I want those songs that.
Did I let you down with the first one, where you're like, I got to hear the other songs?
Well, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, man, I got to fix this.
I got to take this podcast. I got to fix this.
No. That's not all at all.
No, I'm good. I don't know. I'm good. I don't have to go McBlatty.
Okay, not yet. Just let us know. Your little boy bladder, eventually gives way. And I don't have the Riff On podcast studio urinal installed yet.
You're being a little racist now because of my Scottish roots and my small bladder.
I don't know anything about your Scottish roots. Wouldn't surprise me, though. So feel free. Pick up the guitar, Troy, if you want to intro this one as to what it is, what it's about.
Well, Andy, so I'm gonna. What do you want to hear? What do you? Andy's the second most familiar with my work, and the first person isn't even me. It's actually my mom. She hollers out songs sometimes. I'm like, she's like, oh, you should play this tonight. I'm like, I wrote that when I was 7. But
our moms are always our biggest supporters. So
absolutely,
she's not
100%. Well, I will have to say, since I've been married, Elizabeth is definitely the biggest supporter. She knows all of the songs. She can sing all the songs, even if nobody else has heard them. Even like before I'm done writing them, she's usually singing.
She's like, "This is how you should finish this." Do you guys co-write a lot together? I see Andy often, and I don't think we've ever really talked about this.
No.
Is that intentional, or is it a time?
So it depends on what you mean by writing. I mean, as a songwriter, I'm sure you know this, Troy. You have your song, you finish your song, and then you bring other people in, and you realize the song's not done.
Right.
And so that's a lot of the times that's what Liz does, is I'll write a song, I'll finish the song, I'll hear the song, and then I'll hear the song with her singing it, and I'll be like, oh, you realize,
yeah.
Well, you just realize, like, again, for me, music is really a communal thing, and so if you want people to join along, you have to be able to. There has to be some humility there to go, maybe this isn't finished. Maybe there's space for it to change when other people come in. And I think that's the thing that music does always for me is if you lend the space for other people to come in, then the song is never actually finished until the last person that ever wants to sing along with that song has finished singing along with the song. Then the song's done.
So Wagon Wheel is done.
No, that's going strong, man. If you listen to, and Wagon Wheel's probably a great example of it, because if you listen to the Basement tapes and you listen to what Bob Dylan did, and then you listen to what Old Crow did, and then you listen to what Darius Rucker did, you're just like, oh,
this was how we got here. Yeah,
the music is ever evolving, and that just goes right back to any of those old tunes that you hear, like Camptown Races or You're My Sunshine, any of those old songs, like they're always living, they're always breathing, and I think that's, but so to answer your question, yeah, Liz doesn't help me, like the lyrics, the melody, like I kind of do all that.
So when you present her with a song, I guess my question was kind of like vague. When you present her with a song, it's like pretty much a full version. Maybe not, it's, there's room for her to breathe life into it. But
it's a skeleton.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so let's put that on hold, because I want to come back after the song and actually talk about your songwriting, Troy, and how you kind of come about songs and whatnot. Just because I think that's always a fascinating conversation as a music appreciator, but not a music songwriter by any means. It's always cool how different people come up with what they come about. So, do you know what you want to play?
Yeah, you play Ghosts?
I was thinking you'd play that song, and it's so bad. I don't know that you've played it. You haven't played it in a while.
The song is so bad.
What's
That's a
the-
great
the
preface.
song?
It's so bad that I can't remember the name of it. It's
Oh,
the one
okay.
about the little boy.
Oh, Runaway.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that. That's going to be on the album.
Oh, no, you have played that one. Play that one.
Play that. Okay. This is good. We're doing, you spoke about Robot Dog, and we're doing a session with Tim and Ryan.
They didn't. Nobody heard us talk about Robot Dog.
Oh, really? That was pre-podcast?
Yeah, because I haven't announced that yet.
Announced what?
I don't know.
Well, there's a lightning storm beneath her folded arms. Her ribcage might cave in. Got a thunderous scowl out on the prowl. She is stuck staying in. This whole damn town knows what he's all about. Breaking it down just for fun. She had the money, she'd move to the country. Leave him and all that he's done. Sometimes she gotta run away. Pack some bags for the getaway. Stack boxes in a brand new basement for you to come listen. Sometimes you gotta run away. Turn your back on you yesterday. Get gone before it all goes wrong and match the price that you pay. You're sure that there's a better place, and sometimes you gotta run away. Run away. Well, her pride and joy is a blonde-haired boy. His life sounds just like hers. Raising him up, be humble and tough. That's the life he deserves. Not sometimes wonders if she was right. Deep inside, man, she knows what's best for them both. It's a life of their own. It's what it's like to be loved. Sometimes you gotta run away. Pack some legs for the getaway. Stack boxes in a brand new basement for you to come listen. Sometimes you gotta run away. Turn your back on you yesterday. Get gone before it all goes wrong. Match the price that you pay. You're sure that there's a better place, yeah. Sometimes you gotta run away. Run away. Run away. Run away. It's 3 a.m. again. Your walls start caving in. Today feels harder than the last. Put on a brand new face, full of fire, raised from grace. You could win, still feel loose. I'm out there if you need someone to run away, run away, run away. Run away. There's a lightning storm beneath her folded arms. Her ribcage might cave in.
I feel like we need a studio audience because we need just many more clappers than just us.
Yeah,
No, man, it's great.
like sitcoms, canned clapping.
Sounds great. That guitar sounds beautiful.
Yeah, that guitar is
So
From the
good.
fine folks at Advanced Music.
Yes.
I went in there on Black Friday, and Jeff Wheel was like, "You've got to see this." I was like, "No, I don't." And he brings me over to this, and he's like, "Oh, it's the Builder's Edition, limited edition." And, of course, it's like on Black Friday, you're already in that mindset that's like, well, like, this is usually $400, but if it's only $399, like, I can do it, what? Not that, I spent way more than
That's
that.
not a $400 guitar.
Add
I
an extra
won a
zero or two.
$400 guitar.
I saw it, and I was going to say, I bought my son's 7, we bought him a guitar last Christmas, and he's just starting to play it now. We got someone coming in to give him a couple of lessons.
Who'd you end up getting?
How long you been playing guitar?
All right.
I was a freshman. I was in a band already. We were in a band, and we played Nirvana at our 8th grade talent show.
Smells like Teen Spirit?
Yep, and we jumped off the stage and got disqualified, so we were like the bad boys of our middle school in the mean streets of Fairfax. And so when I was a freshman, you get into high school, you have that like course selection thing. And for the first time, they're like, well, you could take art or you could take beginning guitar. And the beginning guitar teacher was cute, and I can't even draw a stick figure, so I was like, well, I guess I'm the next James Taylor. Let's do it.
So it's funny that you talk about how your principal wouldn't let you go with your name. The what was the name again?
Satan's Pussy.
Satan's Pussy.
Come on, how can you not remember that name? It's
I don't know.
Classic.
Well, so that's it. So, sorry, the tangent.
No, go ahead.
Is when I was in, God, probably I was like a 5th grader. We used to go to Maine with my best friend every year, and he had like 20-year-old cousins, 20 to 25-year-old cousins. They all went to the bar one night when we went to bed, like in this big beach house in Maine. The next day, they went in, and I guess they had gone to the bar and told the bartender they were a touring band called Satan's Pussy. And then...
I like it.
So I remember hearing this at like, you're in the 5th grade? I was probably 10, maybe. And they went into the bar, and they had goldfish in the centerpieces. I remember them telling us that they stole the goldfishes. And they brought them home, and the goldfishes lived, and they were like swimming in the kitchen of this beach house in like a cereal bowl, and they brought them back to the bar in the Ziploc bags because my friend's mom was like, you stole from this bar, and they put them in a big gallon Ziploc bag and walked them back to the center of York, Maine, and left them on the steps of this random bar. And now that cousin works with me at the school I work at, one of his cousins that
Nice.
invented the name Satan's Pussy. So now it's kind of this weird roundabout.
So you picked up the guitar a little bit late, though. I mean, when did you pick it up, Andy?
Ministry school, 19.
19. Okay,
I was
so
15.
Okay, so you got to do a little bit late, but because it just seems like a lot of guitarists that I know picked it up, teenage years, and they think I picked it. They say, I picked it up late. I wish I could do it earlier. So I was just kind of curious how long you've been playing. So, have you always written songs the same way, so to speak? Did you start writing at an early, right off the bat?
I was writing before I could play to justify writing. I feel like I was the guy who, like, the second you learn in that class G, C, and D, I was like, yeah, okay, I got it now. Like, semester's over. Like, give me the B and send me on my way. But I do like so much writing that I'm the kind of guy who will not write anything for months, and then I'll be driving down the road and just like write out a whole 3-minute song, and that's kind of the like, oh, I know what chords these need to be, and I'll just kind of like go home and just spit it up onto whatever I have lying around to write it down on.
Your guitar playing's gotten 100 times better since I first saw you.
It's those extra 2 chords, man.
Probably
4 to 6.
2014, probably.
Yeah,
right?
was that the Zen Lounge night?
I think it was because I want to say John was probably done with Citizen Bear at that point. And
But he played with you. No, he played by himself, and then
he
he
played
ended up
with
playing
me
you, yeah.
that night. Yeah, I disqualified myself that night.
So how many originals about do you have, you think?
I'd say I have 30 original songs that like I could play, but I feel like you kind of find the 10 to 15 that you like, and those are the ones that kind of find their ways into the set. I think it was actually you who said you used to write like 40 songs a year.
I used to try,
And out of the 40, you like 6 to 12 of them.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that kind of kick around. I think it's like that with anything.
Yeah.
it was a numbers game.
Well, and a lot of bands usually come to the studio saying, all right, we've got, 25 songs written, and they may, quick lay down 25 demos, and out of that say, all right, we want to get, they fine-tune 16 and put out 12 on the album type of thing. But, nowadays we're in a super single-oriented society, which is extremely frustrating.
Oh, the album's just 12 singles now. And
and those that are doing it almost, quote-unquote, right are releasing them 12, one at a time until the 12 are out, and then they release the album, and it's it's great because all of a sudden you know everything.
So I'm a huge Third Eye Blind fan, and I refuse, as much as I love Stephen Jenkins, I refuse to justify some of his Stephen Jenkinisms. Just like being this guy, it's like, all right, man, you're not quite Mick Jagger, like, but you know, he's one of those guys that I still like. I love everything Third Eye Blind puts out. I just like refuse to put that mental block up. And it did take a long time between albums, 5-6 years. And he eventually said in 2012, 2011, it's like, this is going to be our last LP. And they've put out consistently good 6 to 8 song EPs every year since then. But he just went on the record. He's like, it's expensive and people don't care about 12 songs at a time.
Well, the distribution system is so different. We've talked about this on previous, podcast episodes where it's like nowadays with Spotify and iTunes and the website and YouTube. I mean, once you create your account, and it's a little bit like podcasts. It's like once you actually go through the rigmarole of your host and whatnot, and you can upload your song or upload your podcast, it distributes out there, and it's just so easy to be your own, quote unquote record company nowadays. Where, I was really glad that Milton Busker released the physical CD. I bought a copy just because I'm a longtime friend. I actually bought 3 copies because I give away as Christmas gifts, but my copy is still unopened because I've got my Spotify. I've had it downloaded, since then, because of Spotify Premium and what have you. But I think it's the physical copy is almost a necessary evil, as we've said in podcast past. As Andy sits in front of my 700 CDs, which are whittled down from my 1200, which those black binders I've got 10 of, which are about 2,000 CDs in those, which are live recordings and things like that. But I never pull out a CD anymore because it's all digital oriented. But the distribution network, and I want to go back and listen to it. Gary V. Have you ever listened to Gary Vaynerchuk by any chance?
No.
He's a marketing guru essentially, but he's got a multimedia company out of New York City, and he's a big music head. And he just recently released a podcast on music distribution, and if he was an artist, what he would suggest doing, and talking about writing and SoundCloud and things. From what I understand, I have not had a chance to go and listen to it, but I know from his listening to him in the past and reading his books that what he speaks is very modern and very truth-based. And I know it's going to be great for songwriters because he's big into hip-hop and the modern hip-hop culture and the rap, the internet-based hip-hoppers, which is a whole new culture that's come out thanks to Adam 22 and
Hobo Johnson. Have you heard Hobo Johnson yet?
I have not.
Yeah, big. He's basically led this slam poetry rap movement, and I believe he's still unsigned, but he's doing Tiny Desks. He's like got radio singles, and it's all just like pulled from his YouTube audio. It's insane. It's
right. I mean, we get the NPR, Tiny Desk, concerts and what have you. And I mean, you can have your own venture now without a physical production. That being said, so you're releasing an EP.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Now that you the record industry is dead, but I'm putting out an album.
The digital thing is still super.
Oh, absolutely.
Are you going to do physical copies, or are you just going to do digital?
I think I will, just from my own, it's the participation trophy.
So your mom and dad have something to show,
right? Exactly.
I think that's
Dad wouldn't have owned up to that. He's one of those. I think his coworkers appreciate what I do, and he's just like kind of sits there and he's like, yeah. He's like, well, you got that college degree so you could play guitar in bars, and but no, I think there's I think you touched on it with Milton. I think there's going to be a core group of people who are like really more interested in just having the token of, this is this person, and I've supported this, and I've got this memento. But I think the Spotify, iTunes, I mean, even iTunes now is like kind of an obsolete platform. So it's interesting. I don't know how I want to go about marketing this EP. Is kind of where I'm at with it.
When are you shooting to release it?
It's going to be February. I'm not sure when. We released a single back in May. Toying with the idea of releasing one more single like right before.
Right.
Like a week or two before, and then
so it's all recorded.
Yeah, it's done. It's totally finished.
Where did you record it?
I recorded at Studio 150 with Chris Hawthorne from Barica. We did some consulting. We planned on recording at Future Fields with Medela.
Yeah.
And then Medela kind of in that window became Medela.
Yeah.
Which is busy.
Right.
And now Medela's over, so maybe the second EP. We'll just do between both. We'll pull a Beatles and we'll just bounce from studio to studio until it's finished. Draining my wallet.
Yes.
It's right. I mean, we live in a very interesting society where with Record Band, with Audacity, and with a home studio, you have that potential to do a little bit on your own, but yet the local studios still thrive. So we talked about it real quick, briefly off podcast, and then teased it again. So Robot Dog is where Milton Busker released his, or recorded his, and you're working with Ryan as the host.
I will end up. Yeah, I guess we're gonna announce this now. Yeah, I am doing a solo album with Robot Dog. Love what Robot Dog's done the past, I think, 4 years. The first time I worked with Ryan was actually with Milton Busker at Four Quarters. He was running sound.
Oh, really?
For a show that Milton and I played together.
In the street itself?
Yeah.
I was at that show.
Yeah.
It was my first time at Four Quarters, actually.
And so yeah. I'm excited to do that. Right now I have 8 new songs that I've written that aren't Citizen Bear or Owl Star songs.
Wow. And it's going to be put out under what artist name? Do you know yet?
Probably Andrew James or One Who Sees Dimly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Probably Andrew James, though.
Yeah.
It's crazy, just to shoot back. There's so many. I mean, as I throw out Future Fields of Robot Dog and Studio 150 with Chris, it's like I can really put myself in any of those situations and be like, yeah, these guys could worthy of this. It's amazing.
So many great studios in
West
in
Street
this area.
Digital still
West
crushing
Street,
it.
There's the Tank. Those guys are.
Do the Signal Kitchen guys still record? Any idea?
I think they stepped away. I think they will. I think it's one of those situations.
I'm a little lost as to what happened with them, because I know how they started. It was a great story, and I saw Ryan Montbleu live solo there Grammys night one night, like 6 years ago now, whatever it was, and the great venue, the old Signal Kitchen.
Their first, what's funny about that is their first, one of their first shows was Leon Redbone, and that is like my dad's favorite artist.
Yeah,
is Leon Redbone. So
this was pre-Arts Riot. This is when Signal Kitchen is still just Signal Kitchen.
Pre-Arts Riot, pre-partnership.
This is probably 2012.
Yeah, Arts Riot just celebrated 5 years, so that makes sense. So yeah, it was before that.
But yeah, so I'll do that. I was talking to Kyle Rose too, and he doesn't have a studio anymore. KTR.
The first time I ever went into the studio was KTR.
But I talked to him, and he's willing to do stuff. There's just so many. John Grattan recorded the first Citizen Bear album, and
Carnival's great. Like that album doesn't sound garagey.
It's 100% Shed.
That's why.
It's Shed recorded.
So, bands, recordings, and whatnot. The band thing for you, Troy, kind of skipping around.
Yeah,
the band thing. You were solo for years and years and years, and then
you did the duet.
You and Dylan were the hot duet thing, and all of a sudden the band just kind of dropped out of nowhere, seemingly. Like, this is a new thing. Right?
Yeah, it's totally new. So, Dylan and I, we were super. Grace Potter's I've seen her live more than any other band. We got asked to play Grand Point North in 2017, and we got to play with Dodge and the Transstasia band, and just all sorts of. It was an amazing day. So this past year, Nina's Brew, we talked about Isaac and G and Mike.
They won the local.
So back-to-back years, and they kind of asked me to come and I guitar tech for them, but it was only 2 guitars, and they tuned them themselves. So I literally just got the free ticket and talked myself into staying backstage all day. So we kind of decided that, and then I get a call from the Skinny Pancake, and they're like, "Hey, we got a lot of people wanting you to play post, after party Grand Point North. Will you do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I don't know,
if I have to.
Absolutely. But what are you looking for?" And they're like, "Well, we're looking for 3 to 6 pieces." And I'm like, "Okay." And I was like, "So this EP we'd been working on, which was mostly recorded at this point, but not mixed and mastered and all that good stuff." I was like, "Yeah, I'll play full band." And it was kind of that word vomit moment of I'll play full band. Okay. And so I called up Ezra Oakland, who is doing an album with Wu-Tang right now, and he plays with Dwight and Nicole, and he used to do stuff with Nora Jones, just a super sweet guy.
Wow.
and he did the studio drums on our album.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Some
and
names right there.
right, yeah, just name. I just pick them
name
up.
dropping
Right.
Wu-Tang
Just
and Nora.
saying, maybe.
That's yeah. So
Don't
we
know
did,
why.
and we brought in Trevor Contois and Isaac French sat in and played keys, and we just kind of were like, yeah, it'll be this like what we would do in our basement if we just got together and had tequila shots and played it in my basement. And then after you play that one gig, it went well, and you get calls for other gigs. I'm like, yeah, we can do that. So now we're doing that kind of tentatively. So with a rotating cast of people, but yeah, it's been fun so far.
And you're featuring a lot of a handful of covers and your originals. Your cover repertoire from when I've seen you is
Right.
extremely diverse and awesome tunes that I've grown up with and whatnot, which has always been great. So
I mean, I think it's one of those things. It's like, it's easy to rely on. I want to push my stuff out as much as possible, but I love the covers. If I'm saying that 14 Star and someone like puts on a good cover of Mr. Jones, I'm getting behind it as much as I might pretend like I don't like it. So we definitely do our fair share of like the 90s quirky stuff, but yeah, I think we're still trying to figure out what we are. I know it's like we look at Citizen Bear, that bill on Friday, just like Chris and Erica, who have this really like country like kind of cornerstone cover thing, and Citizen Bear, which is like mostly original. I think we're gonna, for this show specifically, I think we're gonna aim somewhere right in the middle, probably 5-6 covers and 5-6 original tunes and a lot of Valor Ale.
a lot. I mean, that crowd real well. How many times have you played 14 Star and their affiliated festivals? And what have
a
you?
ton. More. I love those guys. I love Andrea and
Steve
and
I
Matt,
mean
yeah.
that crew over there. It's just and the crowd. I mean, I'm born and raised in Franklin County in Shelton. So when I first started hanging out with Steve, actually right before the new tap room opened, Veterans Day, however many years ago that was now,
I believe I was the first live band they
I
had
remember
there.
when they put in the stage. I remember being there about
I could be wrong.
a couple weeks out, and they were a couple weeks from opening, and I was like, you guys got a lot of work to do. And that place has come a long way, and their support of the community and the musicians and the artisans is just, it's second to none what the Gagnes do up there.
Absolutely.
And the crowd gives that back. Basically their audience is anything they do for a benefit for a family, for whether it's military, whether it's community oriented, is it's second to none. And it's pure St. Albans. I mean, Franklin County is Franklin County, and it's great. And so Friday night's going to be a great time. I'm really hoping I can make it up.
Yeah, and the fun thing is Citizen Bear's first drummer is the brewmaster at 14th Star.
Oh,
so
really?
he sat
Who's
in.
Citizen Bear's first drummer?
Brewmaster Dan.
It is Dan
Really?
Sartwell. Yeah.
Yeah,
I only know the Darren,
Here we go.
Coop, Jake.
he sat in on
and Dwayne.
the last show at 14 Star. Dan sat in for a tune. And
He
it
did,
was-
yeah.
And it was
Dan was the
fantastic.
first when Citizen Bear was still a duo. John Grattan and I. Dan Sartwell was the first guy that sat in, played drums for
Yeah,
us.
it's awesome. Just a cool story. Well, like 14 Star is. I mean, they're just a really really cool story. So,
One more song.
yeah, I
And
think
then-
one more song, and we're going to wrap this up. I've got we're running out of digital.
I'm gonna.
media
Don't worry,
here,
guys. I'm gonna
so-
make Eric cut this in half.
No, you're not. It's really not all that long. So,
How long have we been here? It's been a couple days.
it seems like it sometimes. But it's only been an hour and a half or so, I think.
wanna-
We'll see. What do
you
you?
feeling Magnolias or you feeling Ghosts?
I'll do Ghosts. We'll do the single.
And it's on Spotify.
It is on
I just
Spotify.
found that today.
The record version's a little different, which is
Okay.
cool, I think. But yeah, man, we.
Yeah, I gotta say, so I get to be privy to. I've probably heard most of the
inner workings of Troy Milette.
It's not very deep. It's
just I've got to hear most of the versions of these songs, and every time Troy sends me something, I'm like, man, that's really good. Just cut it. And he sends me another thing. I'm like, oh man,
What did you play
That's-
me at Sturgill Simpson? Do you remember? We were sitting.
I
in...
do remember. You're not supposed to tell Troy. Troy asked me not to.
gasp. Oh, what?
What was it? What track
I hope
was it?
my
I don't
lawyers
remember
are
now.
listening.
It was this one.
Was it Ghosts?
So the funny thing about Ghost is.
it must have been the EP version.
All right, I'll say this one last thing. The first time Troy ever played this song for me, he sang it to me in a car at Shelburne Museum. We were
We were
about
going
to
to see
go
the
see
Avett Brothers.
And Troy's like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, you got to write that, like, finish it and put it out. It's so good.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, no, I just kind of like thought of it the other day. And then it comes, I go and I'm showing Chris Hawthorne tunes. He's like, yeah, that's the one. Let's do that one like today.
I mean, that's the one. I mean, this song it's the one.
Excellent. Yeah.
I hope that's not true if I'm going to put out 7 more albums. Like, well, it wasn't as good as that first song Andy told him was good.
Well, so I'm psyched. I found it on Spotify today, so it's out there. It's like the one single, if you will. So it's all right.
Yeah, you know, all those Eagle Country folks. It's called Ghosts of What We Used to Be.
When I was younger, I thought I'd live forever in the shade of all I had to give. But I grew older, began to see so much more to life than love I had in me. So when I die, what's waiting on the other side for me? Little laughter and the ghost of what we used to be. A soft enchantress, the purest type, kind of woman most men search for all their lives. I let her go into that great unknown, out in the cold, never coming home. So when I die, what's waiting on the other side for me? Sweet serenity, the ghost of what we used to be. I took up drinking and smoking too. Talked a lot, but damn, I never had a clue. I let myself go into that great unknown, out in the cold, never coming home. So when I die, what's waiting on the other side for me? A little piece, the ghost of what we used to be. So when I die, what's waiting on the other side for me? A little everything, the ghost of what we used to be.
I threw the curveball to you in that first chorus.
That's fine, man. That's not my first curveball. Won't be my last.
Cue studio clap. We'll bring in the sound effects.
Perfect.
So fantastic. So the cool thing is we don't have to necessarily rush out of here. But as we wrap up here, pretty excited about this Friday night show at 14th Star.
Should be fun.
Should be a really good show. Your debut EP release, and that's with the band, Troy.
Yeah. So the EP is a full band release. It's not going to be marketed, I don't think, as a full band release, just because the incarnation of the band is not the same band that played on the record.
Okay.
But maybe the second one. Now, I think Andy has finally convinced me that like generating content and building a catalog might be king here. So who knows? Maybe that full.
I think it's helpful. The one thing I learned from doing just marketing is you want to give people something to bite into.
Right.
You know, it's a thing like, because I did the Citizen Bear thing where at the beginning we would just post stuff, but we wouldn't have anything for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So you go months at a time and just post stuff.
Right.
And you're like, oh, well, I should probably have some kind of content.
So the show notes is going to have a link to this Gary V podcast, which I'll send to both of you, which I need to actually go back and listen to because you're a podcast guy because you're a commute to work. I don't get to drive enough, but I love podcasts. You listen to many podcasts?
I've just recently I'm new to the podcast game. I'm really into, as we said before, that Counting Crows,
the Underwater Sunshine.
Yeah.
I want more to involve music. Which is an unfortunate.
Have you listened to the Broken Record one yet?
No,
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah,
Rick
I
Rubin.
listened to that episode.
Oh,
you sent
I
me.
listened to the. They have more than one because I listened to that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They do. They
finally have more than one. Okay.
I think they have 4 now.
Okay.
Really good.
Rick Rubin. I mean, I've been familiar with him for 30 years now.
Well, I mean,
how old are you again, Troy?
Yeah. I'm 34.
34.
So.
Oh man, we're almost the same age.
Right, exactly.
I remember when
You're
Rick Rubin
was.
Was the next coming, which he's been doing it.
You
for
know,
a
he
long
started
time.
out.
He
started out as the first DJ for the Beastie Boys.
Yes,
Crazy.
Yes.
Rick Rubin?
You hear the stories, yeah.
They just put out a pretty
new
definitive anthology.
It's
The
coming
Beastie
in for
Book.
I got it coming in for Christmas for my oldest daughter. It was my request. Been a big Beastie Boys fan for 86. I remember getting
Phil Joseph. If y'all can get out there and see the band Bill, they're a great cover band. I love it's the Nurbecks, right?
Yeah, the Nurbecks with Phil.
Yeah,
and
the
Bill
Nurbecks
on
with Phil.
bass.
Phil
Yeah.
Joseph, man. I'm talking Bus, 1983. Listening to Girls and
86 was as soon as that came out. Just
really? Are you sure?
83, you would have been how old there, buddy?
I was
6?
5. It was 5
It
and
came out in 86. Licensed Still came out in 86.
Yeah, Licensed Still with Phil Josephs.
Yeah.
See, I was Rick Rubin. I was the Eminem era. You had the Beasties. I had Eminem.
Yeah, Rick Rubin. Rubin, so many good things.
Def Jam. I mean, yeah, he's a little bit of a recluse, but I've heard about his infamous stereo in his room that he has to listen. That's apparently super legendary. And I can't say I'm an audiophile, but as a music head, I've heard stories about this room he has and these speakers and what have you. And
Broken
I
Record.
imagine.
Go
Yeah.
listen to it. It's really good
So-
for a music podcast.
Yeah, and there needs to be more, but as we were talking off mic earlier, it's a music copywriting and licensing issue. Hopefully, as they've rewritten some of the laws recently in regards to streaming and licensing and payment and what have you, that may change. So, anything on top between Friday and February, Troy? Are you kind of laying low? Or?
I'm unintentionally laying low.
Yeah.
We tend to kind of pin ourselves into corners with dates in the winter.
Yeah.
So I think with the EP kind of winding down, I unintentionally took the time as a kind of a reset period.
Yeah.
So I'm sure things will come along. I'm always the guy. I have a hard time saying no. So I'll get it's like,
You too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I think I caught it from you. And they're like, hey, you want to come play here on Thursday at 1 a.m.? And I'm like, yeah, I'll see you there.
Right.
So we have websites and social medias and all that good stuff. It's
what is that?
it's Troy Milette Music on Instagram, Twitter, and it's TroyMiletteMusic.com on the worldwide webs.
Right. And that's, thing nowadays with YouTube Live and Instagram Live and Facebook Live, which archives and things like that. The possibilities as a musician are endless. Andy, you've done a ton of them, You just fired it up in the basement, selfie cam and put it up there. And it's
I like
amazing
selfies.
outlet.
Oh, wait, we do have an exciting show coming up in February, though, is when you have to make good on your wager.
I do have.
Yeah, because my EP will be out before you start recording yours, or around the same time you start recording
before
yours.
I start recording mine.
Is it the 22nd? Second.
I start recording on the 2nd.
Okay, so Andy and I made a bet that
We
whoever
bet.
released their EP first, the other person would cover the thing in its entirety at a show.
So I
Very
do
nice.
have to
That's kind of fun.
cover Troy's album.
That's the only reason my EPs finish.
Just to get
Just to spite
Andy.
Andy.
Words. Well, hey, man, now that since you drove here and you know where the Riff On podcast studios are, you are always welcome, musically or as a guest, anytime. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I'm glad to take your podcast virginity.
Yeah. Wait till I blog about that tomorrow.
Hey, it's all right. Just say we went easy on you.
I don't think we did.
I don't think so either. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. The nice thing is being a performance musician, you're familiar being behind the mic, talking in between songs. It's not a whole heck of a lot different.
Oh, I'm chatty too. I don't know. Well, you've seen the show. It's a lot of like getting through the opening riff and being like, just a second, I want to tell you this story before I finish singing the songs you want to hear.
Yeah,
So this is a lot like that, but without the awkward glances.
Yeah, the microphone is not for everybody, but for those that are comfortable behind it, it's ease into it. And it can be a lot of fun. And Andy, you and I have had a great time. It's been a year now. As I registered the domain, it was 13 or so months ago. So we've been doing this for about a year now. Only on episode 11, but it's because we don't get to hang out nearly enough. But this has been a lot of fun, and look forward to more.
It's because he's a Patriots fan, right? That's why.
I don't hold that against him. Nor because he's a Red Sox fan, which is even worse than being a Patriots fan. Way, way worse.
But it's Celtics.
Celtics, I can agree on. We just won 8 in a row, so that was nice.
I don't know.
I'm a Warriors. I'm a bandwagon fan.
The secret comes out. He's got to pee.
I don't think it's
so,
a secret.
No, all right.
Man, that was like an hour ago. You're like, you got to pee?
Yeah, so we'll see you this Friday at 14 Star, right?
Yeah,
See
14 Star.
I'll be the chubby guy with the guitar.
And you'll be on early 6-ish, Citizen Bearish. Is that the plan?
Somewhere between 6 and 9:30.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, we tentatively an hour each. And maybe we'll play a little longer if people clap for it.
Right. And the venue's only open 4 to 10, so you get there early, support 14 Star and the Gagnes and everything they do for the community. Support Andy and Citizen Bear and Troy Milette and the band. Does the band have a name?
The Fire Below is our...
Fire Below.
Which is a... sounds like we could do some like Vagisil commercials or something, but we're stuck with it now. We've 5 shows, we're stuck. We're committed.
So check them out at troymillettemusic.com.
Yes,
everywhere,
absolutely.
on all the socials and on the World Wide Web. So thanks for coming in, Troy.
Thank you so much.
It's been awesome. Andy?
I like it. I got to pee.
He's got to pee. I'm Eric D. He's Andy James. He's Troy Milette. Thank you. It's Riff On.